Dahlia, ever heard of HSP? I'm one, so you could not ask me for favors and stuff. It makes me sad and hurts me. These were words often repeated by sister-in-law Brielle, my husband's sister. HSP, it turns out, refers to someone highly sensitive to stimuli, easily affected by others' moods, a delicate personality. I, bearer of such a sensitive soul, was told, "For the final farewell, it's family only. So could you, a stranger, please leave? Oh, why don't you guard the parking lot outside? Maybe count the blades of grass during the funeral." On the day of the final goodbye to father-in-law Ezekiel, I was told this under the cold sky. When my kind husband Axel learned of this, he uttered something astonishing. Too late for regrets for those who caused alarm. After all, I had been cared for by these people in the worst way possible. Amidst the tense atmosphere, one of the attendees said,
"Aren't you guys gonna stop Dahlia outside?"
"Huh?" Me outside was engaged in a rather surprising activity. I'm Dahlia, a 30-year-old office worker. Met Axel through a friend, dated for 3 years, and just married a year ago. Wish I could say it's been a tranquil married life, but not quite. I've been harboring a certain worry since the beginning of the marriage. At the in-laws' house, parents-in-law and Brielle, 2 years older than Axel, live. We often gather at in-laws' house for seasonal events, and naturally, there's a lot to do, like serving coffee when guests arrive. Glancing at mother-in-law Vivian, she seems busy chatting with relatives. It's not exactly painful, but it's not easy using a kitchen in a stranger's house where I don't usually live. Brielle, could you help me out a bit? I'm not quite sure about the kitchen details. I asked Brielle, who had escaped to the kitchen and was sitting on a chair fiddling with her mobile phone. Dahlia, I've said this many times, but I am an HSP, so please don't ask me for favors. It makes me sad and hurts me. With those words, Brielle stormed off to her room, making a loud noise. I did it again. My relationship with Brielle was always like this, unable to have a proper conversation without supposedly hurting her with my words. After high school, Brielle couldn't hold down a job for long due to her personality, hopping from one job to another. By the way, she quit another job a few months ago and is currently unemployed.
"Dahlia, what happened? There was a loud noise."
The first to rush over in such times is always Axel. Again with Brielle, sorry. I apologized with a wry smile.
"Brielle's just being selfish. I'm really sorry for making you feel bad."
Axel always stood by my side. Then Vivian came from the living room.
"Dahlia again? You know Brielle is sensitive. I always tell you to be careful." "Seriously, for Brielle to get that angry? It must have been something big, right? Don't bully her too much, please."
She glared at me angrily. Whenever Vivian's loud voice was heard, Brielle would come out of her room. "Mom, it's okay. It's my fault. Dahlia asked me to make coffee and told me to take the lead since I'm unemployed, and it just made me feel so frustrated. Dahlia, I'm sorry for making a loud noise earlier." She apologized to me tearfully. To an outsider, I was the complete villain. "I didn't say anything like that. Brielle, why do you always lie? I just asked you to help me with the kitchen details." To my words, "I'm sorry for always misunderstanding. I'm HSP, so please don't raise your voice." She pretended to tremble and act scared, like a tragic heroine. I hated it because it was so infuriating. The relatives made awkward faces and the atmosphere turned terrible. The one who always managed to change the tense mood was father-in-law Ezekiel.
"Dahlia, you tried to make coffee. Thank you. Come on, Vivian and Brielle. Apologize to Dahlia. Brielle, you're an adult now. not a child anymore.
He was the one to firmly reprimand Brielle, his own daughter. Because of that, from the relatives, "That's right, Brielle, you're an adult now. Maybe it's time to look for a partner or start job hunting. You can't rely on your parents forever. Learn a bit from your brother Axel." Hearing this, Brielle's face turned red. So, visits to the in-laws' house always left me exhausted. Sitting on the sofa at home, I let out a big sigh, unaware. Seeing me like that, Axel, as always, said,
"Dahlia, my family, I'm really sorry. Brielle has always been a pain, can't keep a job. I tell them not to coddle her, but Mom is like that, you know? It's a headache for me too. We don't have to go to my parents' house anymore."
Axel offered, but being a newlywed, if I'm the only one not going, Axel might be criticized. Hesitating to accept his suggestion, I thought about it. After all, those gatherings were only once a month, if at all, and I just needed to endure for a few hours. Besides, I thought I understood a bit about this HSP character trait Brielle talked about. I have a best friend named Maya. We were high school classmates and moved from Dallas to Boston together. Of course, I asked her to give a speech at my wedding. Maya, too, has a fiancé she's been with for a long time, about to get married. He's serious, responsible, and kind. We're both busy with work and haven't seen each other recently, but she's my precious friend. I didn't know much about HSP until Brielle mentioned it, but the more I looked into it, it's just like Maya, I thought. I wasn't sure if I could act as Brielle wanted, but I tried to understand her personality. Amid these days, my husband and I were called to the in-laws' house. Ezekiel wasn't there, only Vivian and Brielle. Vivian opened her mouth and blurted out something unbelievable to me.
"Dahlia, can you stop it already?"
Filled with question marks, I replied, "And what is that?" Vivian, face red with anger, said,
"Don't play dumb, Dahlia. You've been sending harassing messages to Brielle almost daily. She's scared. Poor thing."
"What?" I was baffled, having no clue about such accusations. Then Axel intervened.
"So where's the proof? If you're going that far, show us those messages, Brielle."
With Axel's words, Brielle shivered a little. I was too scared and deleted them, but I'm not lying. Thinking that there are people like Dahlia in the world makes me too scared to even think about getting a job." I was infuriated by her weak, crying figure despite being an adult.
"Brielle had a hard time at work and quit her previous job, right? She started feeling better recently, so I suggested she start looking for a job again. Then she cried and said all that yesterday. I felt so sorry for her."
No way. That's just too far-fetched. And Vivian believing that? They're both ridiculous. Disgusted, I looked at the two of them.
"So that's all you called us for? Consider our position being dragged into such a stupid conversation? Brielle, what's with you always using HSP as an excuse? You've been to a hospital or something for it, right?"
Axel glared at Brielle. "Huh? Of course. I'm taking medication and it's really hard for me. I can't work in this state." Brielle yelled, slamming the table with a loud noise, Vivian echoing her.
"Yes, Axel, you're being deceived by Dahlia. Brielle is suffering so much. Why aren't you on her side? You're crazy."
Axel looked at them as if they were filth.
"What are you talking about? You two are the ones who are crazy."
Then Axel retorted, "Brielle, please stop using me as an excuse for not wanting to work. It's extremely unpleasant." Brielle's face turned red at my words. For the next few months, for the first time, I experienced what seemed like a peaceful married life. I learned how important it is to distance oneself from the source of the stress. It was a cold early morning when it happened unexpectedly. At 4 a.m., Axel's mobile phone rang, rubbing his sleepy eyes.
"Ugh, it's Mom. Obviously, I can ignore it, right?"
As Axel was about to go back to sleep, I said, "Calling this early in the morning is a bit strange, don't you think? Maybe something's happened." Reluctantly answering the call, he heard,
"Axel, Ezekiel has..."
It was a heart attack. By the time we rushed to the hospital, Ezekiel was already gone. Vivian, seeing me,
"Why did Dahlia come too? Go away!"
she threw her bag at me. Brielle was also there.
"It's all Dahlia's fault. All of it. Non-family members leave."
I said to their irrational words,
"Enough! Can't you be quiet at a time like this? It's so unfair to Ezekiel. And don't worry, I don't consider you family either."
Axel apologized to me, but there was so much to do. Ignoring the unreliable two, we busied ourselves with death notices, funeral and church arrangements. Ezekiel's sister, auntie-in-law Lucy, who lived far away, "He worked so hard. Rest well, Ezekiel." "So, what will you do, Axel?" Axel looking straight ahead.
"My mind's been made up for a long time."
Lucy simply nodded in understanding. We decided to have a funeral with only close family. On the day of the funeral, I never expected to be treated like that. While I was bustling around,
"Dahlia, can you come here?"
Vivian and Brielle called me over. "What is it?" I asked. They had a request.
"We asked Axel, but he refused. Can you ask him for us?"
I was shocked when I heard what they wanted.
"Now that Ezekiel's gone, you both work, right? Could you help us out financially? Maybe $1,500 a month would be good. We're family after all, right?"
They were completely ridiculous. I couldn't help but laugh, holding my stomach.
"Family? Huh? Please don't make me laugh.
Weren't you the ones who said non-family members should leave? Always calling us outsiders and now saying we're family when you're in trouble? Isn't that too self-centered? I refuse, of course. You're both young. Please work." Laughing derisively at me, Brielle, using her large frame, forcefully pushed my shoulder and said, "Fine, then we want a family-only farewell. So could you, an outsider, please leave? Go guard the parking lot outside. And while you're at it, count the blades of grass during the funeral." Pulling my arm and laughing as it was amusing, she kicked me out of the funeral home without even giving me a coat in the cold season. "Brielle, doesn't it hurt your heart to do such a petty thing? Don't you realize that your whims hurt people?" My words seemed to have no effect. "What? Preaching to me, a younger person? Heart hurting? I've never felt that."
Rather, I get irritated watching people who don't do as I want. Dahlia, your happy work-life boasting is annoying.
As she glared at me, I replied, "I see. Well, that's enough. I wish you both the best in difficult times ahead." Smiling kindly, I walked towards the parking lot. I heard their crude laughter behind me, but it didn't bother me anymore. About 20 minutes later, a pale-faced Vivian and Brielle, along with an enraged Axel, showed up in the parking lot where I was.
"Dahlia, what are you doing? Are you crazy?"
Their faces, losing their minds, were comically absurd, and I couldn't help but laugh. "What am I doing? Just doing as I was told, guarding the parking lot and counting grass blades. I'm at 350 now." Behind me, "As I'm an outsider, I'm not allowed in the funeral home. I've been told by Vivian and Brielle to guard the parking lot and count the blades of grass." I had written these words on a cardboard box and placed it nearby.
"Why are you out here in the cold doing this?"
the relative asked worriedly. but I silently pointed at the cardboard box. Axel brought me my coat.
I couldn't believe you were actually doing this. This is the last time. I'm really sorry for all the trouble I've caused.
To the tearful Axel. It's okay, I said. Axel always stood by me. When I returned to the funeral home, several relatives rushed over.
Don't worry about this and go to your mother's side with peace of mind.
Why would I? I looked puzzled, and Axel quickly nodded behind me. I later learned that when Axel noticed I was missing,
Where's Dahlia?
he asked Vivian and the others, who replied with a nasty laugh.
Dahlia said she's an outsider and wouldn't attend the funeral, so she went outside.
She's guarding the parking lot since she has nothing better to do. She's terrible, right? Maybe you should break up with her. Then you can come back home, Axel, and give Mom some peace.
Who would believe such a lie? Axel, outraged, declared.
Comfort you? Are you kidding me? I've said it before, my family is Dahlia and Dahlia alone. I don't want anything to do with people who only hurt her. I'm cutting ties with you.
At the mention of cutting ties, Vivian was agitated.
Cutting ties? Such unfilial behavior. At least support us financially. You expect us to live in that house, just the two of us? Show some filial piety.
In response to Vivian's furious words,
Why do you even think you can continue living in that house? It's too presumptuous. It's embarrassing, right, Lucy?
Lucy nodded to Axel's comment. The in-laws' house was originally built by step-grandparents. When the step-grandparents passed away, the property and the house were inherited by Lucy after a discussion among siblings.
Vivian, you didn't help Dad and Mom when they were in trouble, did you? Instead, you drove them out of their own home. I've always apologized on behalf of Ezekiel, and I inherited the house. There's no plan for me to return. Brielle, you too. You've always bullied my daughter every time you saw her. She's so afraid of you that she didn't even come today.
Lucy glared at the two.
Dad was planning to divorce Mom and leave the house. You didn't know that, did you? He consulted me many times, saying he was scared of you two and didn't know what to do. Lucy and I were preparing to sell the house.
Axel spoke calmly.
Divorce? Selling the house? Axel, what are you talking about?
The fear of possibly losing their home seemed to instantly drain the color from their faces.
Brielle, you need to straighten out your childlike behavior, or you're going to face serious consequences soon.
Axel's advice was unheeded.
Shut up! I'm not wrong. Selling the house, what are you thinking? That's it. I'll move into your place. Take care of me and Mom.
Ignoring their childlike comments, Axel said,
You need to leave the house by the end of the month. We've got a potential buyer. And don't think of depending on us. Dahlia's mother has been diagnosed with an illness. We're moving to Dahlia's hometown.
Axel's words were met with loud complaints from the two. Amidst the tense atmosphere, a relative who entered the funeral home said,
Aren't you going to stop Dahlia outside?
What followed was as earlier. Neither of the two, already disliked by the relatives, had anyone on their side and seemed diminished. Brielle, I've always thought this, but HSP? That's a lie, isn't it? Brielle glared at me.
No, I'm taking medication and...
Then what's the name of the medication? Which hospital? I pressed her.
That is,
Brielle fell silent. HSP is an innate personality trait, and there's no medication for it. My best friend is like that. She's been suffering in silence, pushing herself too hard. She's serious and tends to bear it all alone. But you're different. You're not HSP. You're just running away from unpleasant things, ignoring others' feelings, and throwing tantrums like a child whenever something doesn't go your way. What you did to Maya, I will never forgive you for that. Months ago, I met my best friend Maya after a long time. She was even thinner, than her already slender frame and told me she was visiting a psychiatrist now. The cause was stress at work. A new employee, upon realizing Maya was younger, behaved over-familiarly from the first day, pushing work onto her.
It's faster when someone experienced does it, right? Thanks a bunch.
Maya ended up with constant overtime. Eventually, this document is due tomorrow, right? It needs to be submitted today. This and this are incorrect. The new employee slammed the desk and announced,
I'm going home, and I quit today. I can't work in a place where seniors bully newcomers.
She left all her work and really went home. Maya, feeling responsible, soon took a leave from the company. Her engagement ended due to misunderstandings with her fiancé. Was it my fault? I was scared and didn't know what to say. I comforted Maya as she cried silently. Just hearing her story made me despise that person. Just hearing about it makes me hate that person. Why not sue? It's unfair that only we suffer. Do you have any evidence? Maya had recorded their conversations to review them later, suspecting her own communication might have been faulty. I was infuriated by the arrogant attitude, but more than that. Wait, this person? Their name, is it Brielle? I felt dizzy when I found out that the unreasonable person was Brielle. Upon learning this, I can't sue someone from Dahlia's family, Maya said. Don't worry, we're practically strangers now. I'll fight with you. My cheerful laughter brought a slight smile to Maya's face. So, expect a letter from a lawyer about the compensation claim soon. Make sure you pay up. I smiled kindly and Brielle's face went pale. The funeral proceeded solemnly, and I was able to say my final goodbye to Ezekiel. Vivian was too distraught to give the eulogy, so Axel did it instead. There were sniffles around the room as he spoke of his father. We moved to Dallas. Mom's health is improving. Vivian and Brielle, kicked out of their house, managed to rent a cheap apartment. With little cash left and now the compensation to Maya, their life is tough. Vivian started a part-time job.
Brielle, you quit your job again? Be responsible.
Shut up, I'm not wrong. A parent should support their child.
Once closed, they now constantly argue, and it seems they might be evicted from the apartment. I've issued a restraining order against them and instructed Mom to call the police without hesitation if they show up at our place. Maya quit her job and returned to Dallas with us. She's still recovering, but gradually gaining weight, and her smile is coming back. Nothing makes me happier. Someday when I have children, I want to teach them the importance of empathy and that there's no need to endure and be friends with someone they can't understand.